Okay, for people joining this live stream, this is a meeting about Wolfram language, incremental language development. We actually have two back-to-back meetings this afternoon. One is incremental language development, the other is language completeness and consistency. Although I think they are separately tagged, yes. Okay, let's launch here. TreeForm.
So the first topic is a question you posted at asking about how to represent non-atomic heads in TreeForm. And we have Charles to discuss that. The same question applies to expression graph.
Yep. Well, let's understand what is happening right now. I mean, so right now, if I say nest list, fx5 or something, and I say TreeForm, this will work. Okay, that's what that does. But now if I were to do it the other way around, if I were to say, if I were to make this a headdress, so to speak, if I were to say, let's see, what is the right thing to do here? If I would say hash of f, is that right? Am I getting this the right way around? Yeah, something like that, right? Am I doing this right?
Yeah.
That is boring, right? So the question is, what should we be doing there? Charles or anybody here? Charles here?
Yes, I'm here. Well, for me at the time, or at least what I think is depend of the use and application of what we are looking at. If we look at it as an evaluation tree, sure, we can just break it down like a kind of we'll generate a tree which is appropriate for a depth first traversal like we do in the evaluator. Otherwise, I mean, it's purely based on the application. That's my
I see what you're saying.
point of view.
So you're saying, imagine you were the evaluator.
Right.
I mean, what is the recursive process that you go through? So this tree is representing the recursive. So for example, if we were to do that, let me just I should be saving this someplace different. Is this saved in Dropbox? Does anybody know?
It's not right now.
Okay. Let's put this. Yeah, this is going to go in a separate place. I'm going to put this in a different place. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the concept. The concept would be if you were tagging the parts of this. So, I mean, how would I display this? Can I do it with a map with a side effect? Can I put a number in here? How do I know what order these things are being traversed in? But you're suggesting that every edge here represents a step in the traversal done by the evaluator. And so the traversals in here are subtraversals, so to speak, as being represented in something like this. Is that right?
Yes, that's one way, yes.
What the heck is that line there doing?
I think that's another box. It is that this internal, so that goes in 2 steps, and the new box is too large. So
you're saying, okay, so do we have anybody from design here?
No, I don't think so.
Could we try and find Jeremy or somebody else from design?
Yeah, sure. We try to get him.
Yep. Okay. I mean, I think this is basically the right idea. Is something like this. Anybody object to that?
No, I think it's a natural thing to actually create a new tree for the new head inside.
Right. Right. But it just needs some design. Go ahead.
But in that case, roughly speaking, the tree structure doesn't change. It's just a different rendering, basically. Am I correct?
I think so.
Well, for this, yeah, for expression graph, I'm not so sure. Where do you have expression graph here?
I don't have examples of expression graph.
Okay, but I could make an expression graph for each of these. So this will make a mess, right? Okay, so the expression graphs here will be right. And if I were to say expression graph hash vertex labels goes to automatic, yeah, that looks wonderful, right? It's all good. I mean, I don't know whether there's an argument that says that by default, we should put in vertex labels in expression graph to be placed vertex labels, if you understand what I'm saying. Charles, how would you do that? Putting the vertex labels inside the boxes?
Oh, what you have to do place automatic comma centered. Please, probably name or just rename center. Yeah, probably will have to automatically adjust the vertex size and such.
Well, it's not automatic. I mean, you're saying I should do it here, for example. Okay, that's really weird. Okay, all right, I get it. Okay, all right, so now you're suggesting an expression graph. What should it do in this case? How do we have the notion of a subgraph here? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep. I don't know. Is there such a thing, Charles? Some sort of subgraph inside? Some sort of highlighting a subgraph?
Well, for the rendering, yes, we can do the highlighting. The point was, do we actually want it that you can actually detect that in the structure of the graph?
Well, I think that's what heads arrow true or false, which should represent.
Okay.
I would think. I mean, in other words, does expression graph currently have a heads option?
No.
TreeForm doesn't either. And that's the second topic of the discussion further down.
Okay.
It's a separate topic, but it's related to heads and the fact that TreeForm doesn't align well with level. And so I think it would be nice to have a separate function, perhaps, that actually corresponds one-to-one to level, so that we see the diagrams of what expressions are in level.
Why doesn't it correspond to level?
So I think it's easier in the heads true case. Go a bit down. And you see, we call level there, right? We get these three levels. If we try to do that with TreeForm, the heads and the expressions are at different levels. And it's difficult to understand. While this level form I prototyped there shows the things at their
right, but also this is like the transitive reduction, transitive closure of this thing, right? I mean, this thing is this, but this has all of the pieces. You get what I'm saying? This has the whole expression, and then it has sub pieces here.
Exactly, but you see that it corresponds perfectly with the three results from level.
I understand. That seems like a good function repository function to me.
Yeah.
I think we should just put level form in the function repository and link to it from level.
Right. Because, for example, something I noticed is that we don't have diagrams in the page of level. And I think it's a pity because it would be easier to understand level.
Indeed, it would. Yes. But I mean, we could call a function repository function for that, I think.
Yeah. I can do that. I can create effectively this function and use it there.
Okay. All right. Okay, fine. Did we manage to get somebody from design here?
Not yet. I sent Jeremy meeting info and gave him a call, but no answer. He might have stepped away, but hopefully he joins soon.
Okay. So then for Charles, so what I'm suggesting is that heads goes to true will give the subgraph, heads goes to false, we'll just treat it as atomic. Does that make sense?
So
Yes.
the subgraph becomes a node in this case.
The subgraph, if heads goes to false, the subgraph is just a node whose name is the composite head. If heads goes to true, then it burrows into the head, so to speak, and it becomes a piece of the graph. Am I making sense? Charles, do you understand?
Yes, yes.
But I think it's not really a piece of the graph. It's a node which becomes a graph itself.
But how do we represent that?
I mean,
the only way we have to represent that in a graph is a subgraph, right?
right. So we roughly speaking, we flatten it. Otherwise, it's a hypergraph per se. You know, the node have another embedded graph, which we can't represent yet.
I see. Because in the TreeForm representation, it's a whole box that contains internally another tree.
Exactly. Right. But we can't do that for a graph.
Right.
We don't have a way to make a graph within a graph other than, we could tag those edges. We could tag the edges differently. We could put tags on the edges just for fun, so to speak, for expression graph. Personally, I think that one's going to want, this will be pretty decent to just have, I think it'd be nice to have different colors in some way. And the head of the head of the head. Okay, here's what I think we should do. I think if we can have the edges be different, going inside a head than they are going just, as a normal expression, that would make sense. Charles, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And we would do that with tagging and with the default rendering. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So we
Sorry,
add
say
a
it
little bit more of information visualization there, more something more specific.
That's what we're saying. Yes. Well, we need to wait for somebody from design to finish this off. So I think we've got to go on to the next topic here, and we'll loop back to this hopefully later on in this meeting. Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss about this?
No. I don't know whether Charles wants to stay or we can call him.
I think we can call him back when we get. And if Jeremy isn't available, we should get Billy or somebody.
Yeah, sure. I just messaged Billy. See if he can join.
Okay.
So the next topic is dataset with Chris.
Right. I sent you two notebooks. You should first open the one marked prototype and the prototype build.
Wait a minute. There were okay. Prototype in the prototype build. Okay.
So I've implemented dataset editing and I want to run it by you.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Well, I'll say that even more when I can see it.
So we had talked about using a table view to do that. That's not what I did. I implemented something I think is better.
Okay.
So if you just evaluate that expression,
okay.
If you right click on one of those, there's an edit item in the menu. So if you just want to do a quick spot edit, you can do that, hit return, and there it is. But you can also tab, you can do the same thing, and then you can tab to other elements and edit those as well. So, you actually...
So in other words, you're bringing up an edit. How will this work in the cloud?
I haven't even thought about that yet.
Do you know how many times I hear that? Oh, I haven't even thought about that yet, about the cloud. It's really disappointing. I mean, okay. Obviously, it's got to work in the cloud.
It's got to work in the cloud.
Okay, can I see
I
this
mean,
for a
it's
more
just-
non-trivial data set?
Yes, well, so I just keep going down this list of topics. There's a number of things that I want to show you.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me look at this one a little bit more carefully. Okay, so I'm here. I mean, to me, and this is something, I mean, we'd really want Noah or somebody here to opine on this, but this should have an attached cell that has things like, has a button that says edit, basically. In my opinion, you shouldn't have to go to the right-click menu to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I considered that. I think this is a little more elegant.
Well, we need it. Look, if we have a toolbar that only happens on hover, then we have best of both worlds. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but okay, so I can tab through these, and
If you look at the next example, so you can tab through those, but you have access to the entire data set in the editor dialog. So this example doesn't have multiple levels, but if you do, you can drill down, you can scroll, you can edit the entire.
There's that thing. So now I go right click. What the hell?
You have to right click on a thing.
Okay, but we already lost the game here.
Well,
I'm right clicking like that,
yes,
right there. We already lost the game.
I have talked to, I have a JIRA ticket in with the front end people. I would like to be able to attach interactive behaviors to grid cells. It's a technical issue that they need to resolve.
But then look, we've already got a bunch of stuff down here. We need an attached cell that comes up on hover.
Yeah, okay.
That way we can solve this problem. Well, I don't even know where do I go to get this?
Click on an item, click a number.
Okay, and then what? Oh,
edit.
I'd never be able to figure that out. Okay.
So you can edit anything in the data set now before you dismiss it.
So I can go down here. I can be
Yep.
walking down with that. Can I add a row to the data set?
No.
Is that temporary or is that
That
Okay, so the cursor is doing the wrong thing here. I'm clicking after 66 and the cursor is not moving to after 66.
yeah, it's because, yeah, okay.
Okay, now what just happened there? Because I edited, I removed it, and then, oh, good, nice. So what is that, in fact? What is that creature?
It's just missing.
Okay.
And you can edit it and you'll see the input form.
Nice. Nice. I like the fact that it has the selection, preserves the selection there.
Yeah, it makes it easy to do a spot edit.
Okay, why can't I resize that window? I should be able to. There's an easy way to make that happen, I think.
Yeah. Why do you want to resize it?
Because I might want this thing to get longer somehow.
You want to resize not just the window, but the data set.
That's why
you want to see more scrolling area?
Yes, I think so. And in fact, the UX that would be really nice here is to have one of those side, I don't know what they're called, thumb grabby things on this side that I could then pull out to just change rather than, you see what I'm saying?
Right. To change the scrolling area.
Right. And failing that, in the attached toolbar, I'd like to be able to adjust that, but I particularly like to be able to adjust that by explicitly thumbing it in and out, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
So a lot of items in dataset have special formatting. It's turned off in the editor and everything is given an input form.
Okay. I have no idea whether I selected the right thing, but let's go there. I have no sense of whether that's the correct behavior. It's probably the correct behavior.
Well, so there's two issues. One is, you know, if there's some special form, we would have to have some way of parsing backwards from the special form to the original.
Let me point out, by the way, in terms of my width thing, this is a case where it's going to, you know, something might go really, really wide here and have to be dotted. Otherwise, it would go bonkers, right?
Yep. Yep.
I can easily invent that. So this has got to be resizable.
Yeah. But the other issue is even, I mean, for some complex forms, the user's just going to have no hope of editing it.
Okay, why does this not resize?
Because it's thumbnailed. I don't know. I'll have to check that out. Okay. Whatever that is. Did resize. Okay. So that's not going to have an effect because you're reformatting the source data, but the formatting of an image in dataset is thumbnail.
I see.
Right.
But if I were to extract it, I would get different things now.
If you were to extract that image,
yes,
you should.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what you do with that. I mean, that's an issue. I mean, this is, look, okay, here's what I think should happen, okay? I think there should be a way to peel this off into a form notebook, right? For really industrial scale editing of things that are really long and complicated, peel it off and make it a form notebook.
Just that item, you mean?
No, I mean the whole data set.
Okay, I don't know what it means to make it a form notebook.
It means it makes it a notebook. You understand? You know what a form notebook is, right?
I know what forms are on the web.
No. Okay, so you haven't been paying attention to that project. So probably you should join the meeting that's happening this afternoon about that. I mean, form notebooks are notebooks that have tagged content and are, you know, immediately scrapable. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So then each of these things becomes a section in the form notebook. You do whatever editing you want, and then you press OK, and it turns back into this.
I see.
Okay, and that would be my suggestion for what to do. Rather than you can't get there from here, that would be my suggestion for what to do in this case.
Does that work with multiple levels and ragged and all that stuff?
No, it's purely it will purely work only with one level. I can work with a column. I mean, maybe it's not quite the right suggestion, but I think maybe the right thing to do here is to say, I mean, if you can do a nested, you know, dialogue-y thing, that might be possible, where you can open it in a notebook. You get what I'm saying? Open just that particular, you know, grid element in a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't have an opinion about that. I would doubt that. I would doubt that that's a good idea, because it's changing the data. I mean,
well, no, this would only be going into the editor dialog. You'd apply normal so that you get like a rectangular array. You can edit it, and going back, it would turn it back.
Why don't I want to edit it as a sparse array?
Because if it's not input form, it's an ugly thing that you can't edit. And if it is input form, it's a cryptic thing that you don't know how to edit.
But I think in the specific case of sparse array, to give it as a sparse array with sparse array of various, I mean, I don't know how you exactly build that as an output form, but I think that would be the useful thing, because otherwise you blow it up. You know, it's a million by million sparse array, but it only has 3 elements in it.
Yeah.
And that will blow it up.
All right.
What is remove type argument from nested data sets?
Well, since everything is presented in input form, if you have a data set in a data set, you get its input form, which has this ugly type argument in it, which is irrelevant to editing. It should be removed. That's really a note to myself.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, you've already seen the next one, missing values. Now this is not working in the prototype, so I just put screenshots in here. If you have an item display function, in this case, it gives you the integer name of the contents. When you edit, it shows you the underlying data. But then when you're done editing, of course, you get the
That's
that
nice.
display
Maybe there
function
should be a
applied to
visual
it.
indication that what you are seeing is not what you're going to get.
Like what?
A color background, for example.
Okay.
Or I think it's a luxury feature, but I mean, I think having something that indicates,
I think
I don't know.
People are going to more likely just be confused. Like, why is there a colored background there?
Yeah, all right, okay. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Hidden items work similarly. It unhides when you edit, and then it hides again.
Nice.
So you can evaluate that. If you have a data set that is populated with placeholder, you can use it as like an entry thing.
How?
Edit, choose edit.
This has got to be an attached cell. By the way, in that particular case, when you click the placeholder, I don't really see why it wouldn't just come up with.
Like bring up the editor.
Yeah. Now, what about table view for some of these? I mean, what about if I wanted this to be a table view? You know, it seems to me that a peel off from these things that could peel off as a table view, could peel off as a whatever else might be useful.
You mean you want a table view in the editor?
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think the thing to do is, you do.
How do I do the sorting again?
Table view of data set.
How do I sort?
Right click the header and sort it.
Nice. These have got to have mouse overs of some kind. It's got to have a mouse over that indicates that you can right click it. It's just completely unobvious that you can right click it.
Well, it does. It turns blue.
That means a click to me, not a right click.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
never figure out the right click. I never figure out the right click. There's got to be some way. There's got to be some, affordance thingy that shows me that, that's an alternative to right clicking that comes up when I'm hovering over this.
I mean, I can't think of any precedent for that. There's not usually a visual indication of you can right
I know,
click something.
because this isn't. Because I'm saying the right click is not the only way to get to that UX. See what I'm saying? Why don't you do one iteration with Noah about this? Okay, if you can't figure this out, I mean, I think that it's either something that comes up down below here, or perhaps better, it's something that comes up on, near the thing you're clicking. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
By the way, this functionality is quite spectacular. Does it scale well?
I mean, I haven't tried it on huge data sets. It's not going to be any slower than just, regular data set display is.
Okay, so what's this now? What?
So if there's an elided form, this is a case where you really do need the edit button. But if you get to the editor, which you can't do by right-clicking there, you have to right-click somewhere else.
This is a joke. I mean, I'm desperately trying to find a place I can right-click to get to the editor.
Right-click on the header. Right. So there's those elided items. To edit an elided item, you click that item, and it takes you to down one level where you can edit.
Yeah, that's nice. Prem on our live stream says video games do this quite well. What's the this, and what do they do? Give us a suggestion. So I'm not totally thrilled with this modal character of this thing. Although I understand there isn't a lot of choice.
Yeah, I don't know why it does this either. This is something I inherited from Tally. And
Which?
I never know.
Sorry. Which thing?
Are you talking about this presentation as text rather than as like formatted items?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying the modal thing about the way the editor.
I see the modal editor dialog.
Yeah. Is there any alternative UX here?
Well, I mean, you could imagine it sort of coming up in place. I mean, one reason for a modal dialog is you want the editing to be done before the notebook is closed, because you don't want to have unresolved editing. I mean, that's a whole nother layer, having to store all that information.
Yeah, I understand. I would really like to get some more UX review of this. I mean, this is quite lovely, and really quite lovely.
Another reason for the modal dialog is, the data is presented differently. So
yeah, I understand that.
yeah.
I'm just not sure, I don't know how we do that in the cloud, for example. I mean, it's probably possible. Now, what am I supposed to see here?
Yeah, same thing, just the aligned items. Another way
Okay,
of
now
aligning
something is
things.
wrong with the selection here. See, the selecting before doesn't. See, this is, I'm selecting.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right there.
Yep, yeah. Yes, that's going to be hard to correct. I know why it's happening, but it's going to be hard.
Why is it happening?
Because there's an input field in that grid, and the input field doesn't fill the entire space of the grid
Isn't
cell.
there a way? You need to talk to John and so on about that. I thought there was a way we'd figured out to deal with that.
Okay.
Ah, sloof. Okay, so return. I see. Return does the okay.
Yeah.
So I couldn't return inside one of those things. If I had it syntactically, okay, so if I had this syntactically a string, for example,
Yeah.
or if I had this syntactically,
you might be able to use
splaffaroo.
Yeah, it's not a splaffaroo. It's saying you entered an incomplete expression.
I know, because I was trying to put a new line into a string.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you need to figure that case out, and just not, return if it's inside a syntactically incomplete thing should not.
Shift return might actually work. I don't know.
Shift return
might.
That will be the opposite use of shift return from the usual one.
Or some modifier return might. I mean, it's whatever an input field does by default.
Well, option return didn't. Control return?
Yeah.
No.
No.
That's even more bizarre. Control return is, okay, so you need to look at that. I don't know what the right thing to do is there. Actually, a point made on our live stream, double click to go into an editor is common.
Yes.
That would be nice to make work. That would be nice to make work. And particularly if you, even if you just had a hover, if you're in here, since you're hovering to produce something there, somehow, double click would be nice. It's an obvious thing.
Right.
But we still need more discoverability. And I think the right way to do discoverability is with an attached cell.
Okay.
Okay, this is really nice functionality. I just hope it's robust. Okay, do I need to see the other item that you put through? Is that the same thing or a different thing?
No, it's a different. There's one important item in that notebook especially.
Okay, is that going to the current build or the project?
Yeah, just the current build. So I'm looking at, you asked for themes, dataset themes, and I'm looking at that now. So I'm going on PTO end of next week, and I'll be back the last week of September. I can put in the infrastructure for themes, but somebody needs to actually design the themes themselves. And
okay, and so
the obvious candidate for that is Tim Shuttlebauer.
Okay.
So the question is, can he be put on this project to work on it?
I have no idea. I'm not his manager. I don't know.
Well, do I need to talk to Roger about that then? Or?
I would assume so. I don't really know. I don't know what I'm sorry, it's not. Who's project managing this?
This meeting, Devin, and I can ask about Tim's availability.
Yeah, and if not him, I would say it was somebody in Jeremy's team.
Mm-hmm.
I have a list of example themes in here. If you want to look at this, we can look at that. If not, you can go.
Well, I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested to see these.
Well, so the question is, what would you use themes for? You can just evaluate that whole thing if you want.
Okay, striped rows like a line printer.
Yep.
That's nice. So we also need name themes, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are just examples of things you might want to do using themes.
I think we need a separate meeting about this because I think this is going to be, yeah, I mean, themes this is a theme that shows the value, colors the values, so to speak,
The heat
color
map.
by value. Yeah. Well, I think so. Theme like heat map seems like a reasonable theme.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a theme like line printer, except maybe nobody will get that anymore. We're just dinosaurs. You get that, right, Chris?
I get the name, yeah.
Well, I mean, this thing here is like line printer paper.
Yes, exactly. I mean, but nobody would call that today.
Well, what would they call it?
I don't know, like row registration. I don't know.
I think it'd be kind of cute to call it line printer. I mean, all these themes are okay, but I think some of these, we've had a marketing theme for the we have a web theme, a marketing theme, those kinds of things for graphics. Those are things that we certainly can have here, but there are specialized things like this heat map that seems really useful.
Right.
Wow, that's funky. Yeah, why not? Well, this is really a good project, but I let's try to get a separate meeting and go through an inventory what possible themes are. Okay.
Okay.
See if Tim can work on this. Otherwise, somebody in the in Jeremy's group. Okay.
Yeah. This is really a minor issue. So the issue is there's no way in the item display function to get at the default formatting for an item if you want to incorporate that in something. So I've added a fourth argument to the item display function, which is the formatted form, the default formatted form of a thing. Oops, how come that gave you that should not have happened. Oh, you're not in the...
I'm not in the prototype build, I'm just in the regular build.
Yeah, okay.
All right, what's this? That doesn't seem controversial.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You don't need to look at that.
What is this?
Just for your information. The most reported bug was data set eliding things when people didn't want them to be elided. So I've changed the precedence of item display function. So now it is applied before elision. So if something gets elided, you don't want it to be, the way to correct that is use item display function, essentially identity, and that
fixes it.
Prevents elision. Yeah.
I didn't hear, but it would in the new build.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it didn't in that build either.
That is strange.
Oh, maybe I didn't click it.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It works for me. I don't know what. Maybe I've got a newer version.
Okay.
Anyway, that's the way it's intended to work.
Okay. Look, it's a procedural thing. Let's combine. I don't think there's any reason to have let's ask the LCC folk to join us here in a few minutes. We don't need to break this into two separate meetings. They're going to collide together anyway.
Okay.
A suggestion from Ali that we look at color plots from the Seaborn library and so on. And yeah, we should look at, I'm sure that Tim and so on will kind of do a study of relevant places and books and so on. All right. Okay. Did we end up getting Jeremy or not? But we have Billy at least.
Yeah, we have Billy and Charles is back.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to this topic here. I have a feeling this is going to need Jeremy. That we're trying to display nested. How did you make this? Sorry, how did you make this picture? Can I make one too?
Yes, it's just mapping TreeForm on the head. So you see what I do. I just mapping on the whole expression and at position 0.
Okay. Okay. Can we do one that's more deeply nested? Like an F of F of F more deeply nested?
Yes, you just keep having longer lists of zeros. You see the next example, 0, 0, 0, empty list. So that's the key idea.
I see. I see. Okay, fine. So this is...
It's like map at all heads.
Okay, hold on. So that's that. And now you're saying that if I do this... Oh, I see what you're saying. That's the list of... So if I do this here... That's a big mess. I don't know what that's doing. That's really weird. Okay, so the basic question is, we are looking at the head of a head of a head. And that tooltip is completely wrong as well. The head of a head, and I mean, this yellow is not really making it very... I think this yellow could be retired. I don't think this yellow is very good. I think it also might help to round these corners. I'm not sure. Billy, want to comment on any of this?
Yeah, the rounded corners I think would help. The yellow, if there's other things that are connected to it, I'd maybe want to see those other things first, but yeah.
Well, what's happening is, what we're trying to do is the head of a head of a head, okay?
Yeah.
So it's yellow with a yellow thing inside it, okay? Like this, right? So the question is, how do we do that? It's kind of yellow all the way down. Now, maybe what we can do is just composite alpha channels here effectively and have at least it getting darker and darker yellow if it's yellow in the first place.
That'd be interesting.
Right, because this is kind of a not working thing, right, in my view. Again, this would look better with rounded corners, but can we simulate this? Probably not easily. Jose, you understand what I'm saying here, that using, I mean,
Yes.
to distinguish that inner piece by using a darker yellow or somehow having a varying color palette.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That essentially what we're doing is we're simply putting that object in there, but with its color palette, kind of one parameter family of color palettes going off into some, either darker yellow or some other direction.
Mm-hmm. Right. Perhaps they could alternate. So the important thing is that you see a transition from one to the other.
We're back to line printers.
Right.
Well, okay, so but the basic point is we're going to need a color map. And maybe the way we do that is we say with heads goes to true in expression graph. No, this is for expression graph, this is heads goes to false, right? And then does this become, okay, this is TreeForm with heads goes to...
I would say true. False would be the previous diagram.
Yes. False has no head burrowing, so to speak.
Right.
Whereas true, okay, so heads goes to true, then causes that to happen and causes us, and in that case, we could have potentially some kind of color function in there as well that specifies by depth what the color should be. But it's head depth, right? It's weird. But I think parameterizing that might be useful. I mean, we could have a method option for the time being to do that, right? So that in principle, you can specify any color map for this. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just by, depth, head depth, and then it indexes into a color map. Okay. Well, so sounds like we need a few, some choices of colors, and then for the implementation, we just need to index into that. Okay. Someone on our live stream is saying, Steve is saying, fan fold paper equals line printer. That's not the only point. The point is that I don't even know why they did it. I mean, I think they did it for exactly the same reason we're doing it, to have alternating colors, to just make it clearer where the lines are. Okay. Ethan is pointing out fonts don't scale nicely in these graphs. You mean in these graphs here? I think fonts do okay there. Well, these graphs, I don't know which graphs we're talking about. Yeah, for some reason, these graphs don't look very pretty. I don't know why.
Well, they're kind of the default version 6, styling, right? We never updated them since.
Well, they probably need a facelift.
I mean, part of it's the size of it. The fact that it's a fixed height in that first set of examples. Doesn't help.
Well, which thing? You mean the fixed height of these?
Yeah, the overall height.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is some facelift that's needed for these. I think in terms of design, I think, and in terms of, I mean, Charles, do you want to comment on how this has mapped or not mapped into? I mean, our modern thing would be more what you get from expression graph, right?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if I just take some random, let's just do a table. Let's do something to generate some things. Let's do some table of integrals or something. That's a little bit unconvincing for expression graph. Is that really what we want it to do? To not by default be a layered digraph?
Well, we decided that when it gets bigger, it's harder to actually,
Well, I would like to suggest that it is a layered digraph, but that its aspect ratio has been modified. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Can try that.
And now this, clearly, if we go here and we say, let's see, we say vertex labels to automatic. Yeah, it's a huge mess, but not obviously wrong. Right. Yeah, this does look very, very dated here. Ali is suggesting a light blue background. Yeah, it's. Would that be consistent with other things we've done? I don't know. Billy, can you comment on that, please?
It's close to the expression graph there with the blue.
Yeah, I understand, but we want this. We need to modernize this, okay? That's the bottom line here.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a question in the TreeForm, the slightly bizarre choice that the fonts scale like that. Is that the right thing or not?
I'm trying to remember what we did recently with that work with, and I'm blanking on it right now, but we did scaling there as well.
I think the scaling is a relatively
you can't make publication quality graph figures. Well, you should send us some examples. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Brett?
I was saying that I think the scaling font size is a relatively recent change.
I mean, there's
Maybe
also the question of
V10
whether in some cases, what happens if we say traditional form of this? What does that do to that styling there, and so on? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, bottom line, let's get some graphic design facelifting done on TreeForm, but I think we've got a pretty clear direction for what to do with the heads goes to true business. Right. There's also, meanwhile, we had a complaint here on our live stream from Ali, complaining about long-standing bugs in graphs, especially find maximum flow when vertex capacity is specified. Charles, can you comment on that?
Sure, we have some issue we are working on, so we're hoping, to fix all of them in future versions.
Like in 12.2, for example?
Yes, so we have been, since version 12, we have been kind of focusing on actually having all that. So yes, we hope.
What is the issue with this
on.
maximum flow, find maximum flow business? What is that?
So while find maximum flow, the optimization, I mean, it's a whole big optimization problem, and there is some, specific case where when the graph have some weight and the results are not correct. So we are trying to investigate why and trying to fix it.
Okay, good. Okay, let's see. I know we have people from the LCC meeting who are just joining us, but I think that they can survive through the last two items here and perhaps contribute to them. Okay, so we're done with the data set stuff for now. We're done with the expression graph and TreeForm stuff. So let's go to EchoEvaluation.
Right, so I think this is something you should open in the prototype build because the styles are there. Or yeah, just copy.
I'm really excited about Chris's editable data sets. Really nice. I wasn't expecting that was going to come together.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. So what we see here is that the guillemets are very similar. So it's kind of difficult to distinguish one from the other.
They are. That is not working. We still have Billy here? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is hopeless. I mean, it's a good concept, but it isn't working.
Right.
I think we need a color change here. I mean, this is the output.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is this? People are asking for add LaTeX render boxes in wrappers. What does that mean? How do we demo? Can we demo? Let's demo something cool. Ah, that didn't work. How do I get the new tech input stuff? Anybody know?
I'm not sure it's in the build yet. It was only added yesterday, I think. So
maybe is it a insert item?
Well, it's definitely added to the insert menu.
Tech input. Inline tech input. There it is. Okay, look at this, guys. Of course, I don't know tech, so that's why I haven't used it in years. Let's see, frac 1 x wedge 6 minus 1 or something. Ta-da!
Does it turn into boxes? Like, does it call the?
Yes, it turns into boxes. It uses the 25-year-old tech renderer that we built for who knows what. But
is it actually like a tech renderer, or is it turning into boxes and rendering through boxes?
It's rendering through boxes.
Okay.
Which is actually the right thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you evaluate that.
Whoops, what happened? Oh, it's this. I didn't. This isn't a this was an input cell. This is a text cell.
I see. Maybe it currently only works in text.
The question is, can you have labels that are in LaTeX? I would think you can, although an interesting question, which this actually raises, which you guys are raising, is to have something where the string template things work through the LaTeX stuff. That should be thought through. You understand what I'm saying? so that you can have a string template which automatically turns into a LaTeX rendered PDF. I don't know what they're talking about. Ethan is saying that Sage Math is superior. That's something I haven't heard in a long time for pure graph theory math. Well, we should find out what it is. Maybe somebody should make a link. It's an open thing, so we could just throw it in as a piece of extra stuff if it actually works. Of course, the problem is it might not actually work, and then it's not clear what you do about it.
Sorry, Stephen. One thing that comes to mind with that echo-evaluation that you have on screen, what happens if you have another echo in that echo-evaluation?
Yeah, okay, we'll worry about that in a second. Let's just deal with our tech input first.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were over with this. Sorry.
I'm almost over with this. That seemed to work. So that's a piece of tech. And we could presumably say that thing to the power of that thing. Well, let's see, if I click that, and then I evaluate it, it'll do the right thing. I think it's pretty good. I don't understand this LaTeX run a PDF. If you can describe that more precisely, then that would be good, but I don't know what that means.
What's the question?
It's a question about graph labels with V sub I in LaTeX.
Right, so this is, I think these are people who want to substitute tech fonts for R fonts when they export their graphics or graphs to, to a PDF. And there's an external package called Motec that does this.
Should we be able to do it? I think this is the totally wrong group of people to answer that question.
I mean, Brett may have some insight given graphics, but...
Go ahead. But Brett, do you want to say something?
I mean, I don't know that I have a lot to say. I mean, presumably it would relate to whatever the...
Okay, let's not speculate, but
yeah.
if Devin can try and ask a question on the live stream and get more information. Yes?
I mean, it seems like this is kind of just related to general PDF export stuff, which I thought was already kind of being improved at some point, because there already sort of are some issues with PDF export. So, I mean, the fundamental thing is they want to do PDF export and have it look like LaTeX, which it doesn't look particularly like LaTeX right now.
Well, I mean, I don't even know that it's necessarily limited to PDF export. I mean, I think there's people who like the
print.
Guys,
the formatting appearance of tech.
We're speculating. Devin should get on live stream and
it's not all speculation. I've been dealing with it for years.
Okay, so
our conversion to PDF is dreadful, and as of 12.1 on Linux, it will crash my machine on a bad day. That's that bad.
Who doesn't like the appearance of tech and LaTeX? Is there anybody who doesn't like it?
What?
Well, clearly Stephen doesn't like the appearance of tech because otherwise we wouldn't be using sans fonts for everything.
Well, that's for a different reason. Okay, in any case, as Christopher mentioned, there is an effort to redo PDF export, and maybe Devin, I think, can you make sure that I don't know, I know that's one of the projects that Sushma has on the list, but can we find out what the status of it is?
Yes, I can ask her.
Okay,
let's
go back.
Let's
not have that. Yeah, go ahead. One more.
Just that it was last scheduled for 12.2. Whether it'll actually make it, I don't know. But
fine. Okay, all right. Okay, so good.
But as of earlier this summer, that was the
front end
status.
team.
No, that it's run by Shadi's team. So if Sean
Are you
has joined,
sure that is PDF
if,
export, not PDF import?
Sean just told me that he's doing import, not export.
only okay.
Import is a completely different problem. Okay, we don't know. Okay, can we go to echo evaluation, please? Okay, so the question raised by Julio was what happens if there's a nested echo evaluation?
Yeah, it looks like it has a totally similar label.
If it's nested.
Like if you, for example, if you do echo of 1 + 1 and one of the two ones has an echo around it.
And that's why we have to use the labels to distinguish the correspondence.
Wait, do you have to provide a label? It's impossible to do a one argument one.
You can, but then the guillemets would be identical.
Why is this selection? There's something wrong with the selection in this prototype build.
Yeah, in the prototype builds, there's something wrong with selection right now. But
okay, so there is no nestability. There's nothing nesting in that.
Right.
Which is kind of a shame.
Well, and by that you also mean it's ambiguous.
Yes, it is ambiguous, isn't it? I mean, no, it always has to.
It's an order of evaluation, right? So
parentheses. This is parentheses, right? It nests correctly by parentheses, I think.
Right, but yes, but I guess I'm not sure what you mean by there's no nesting, but right, it's printing them in order of evaluation.
Correct.
So,
yeah. So we know that those two are paired because they are the innermost parentheses.
Right.
I wonder if there'd be a clever way of making the guillemets like hyperlinks that would go back and forth between matching sets.
Matching sets. Okay.
You mean at least a something which a hover effect,
or possibly a click effect, right?
No, I mean like if you click on the one next to the 1 + echo evaluation, that it would
highlight
in some way highlight the one with the 3.
Just hover would be fine. Hey, by the way, I just want to just on the subject of the LaTeX stuff, could we make sure we have an agenda item about string templates with LaTeX, with tech? And also, Ethan suggests this thing about a LaTeX rendered form added to the list of star form type things. I don't 100% understand that, but I think we do need to think through a little bit more of the programmatic interface to what is really quite nice. This apparently added yesterday capability to do tech import in here. So if we can get that added to probably an ILD agenda, Devin.
Yep.
Okay, so now what are we doing here? So
numbering them. I mean, the analogy with our in-out.
That we could number the levels or number the actual. I mean, what do we do if we have different? One thing is the levels. The other thing is this goes in, out, in, out, in, out. I mean, because we might have a series of these. Yeah. Go ahead.
Also, by the way, it's not necessarily parentheses, because for example, if you call something, if I call URL download save, I think it's called, like if you call anything that makes a scheduled task or some sort of asynchronous task, it's not guaranteed to be parentheses.
When will it come back?
I don't think they print in the notebook. They will go to the message window probably in a task.
Okay, that's true. Right. Okay, yeah.
I think it's just you're right. That's a parenthesis which might not have a matching. Is that possible? That it not have a matching return? If it returns null, does it not have a matching return? If I do this, that's weird.
I mean, it's correct. The fact that we suppress printing, if the fact that we magically suppress printing the result if the final out is null doesn't change the fact that the value of % is null.
No, I agree. Okay. All right. So look, we've got nesting and we've got this case here, both of which are looking pretty terrible. I mean, let me just do a nested case. How would I do that? I would just do, what's an obvious way to do that? With a nest here. Yeah, no, maybe. Am I crazy, or will that work? If I say nest, how do I do that? How do I make a nested collection of echoes?
You can try to nest EchoEvaluation. I mean, they will report each other. In the inputs, you will see many echoes.
Okay, hold on. So with this, if I say nest EchoEvaluation,
right?
Yeah,
X5.
5, right?
Okay, that is truly hopeless. Wait a second. What? But those are going in, out, in, out, in, out.
Maybe you should make it make X something that evaluates. Just say X : = 2. But yeah, you'll probably see X2, X2, X2.
Or you can inactivate the evaluation and then activate the whole big expression at the end.
Okay, hold on. One suggestion. Well, just give me one suggestion here. What are you saying? That I want to make the EchoEvaluation be something that evaluates here.
Well, just say X : = 2.
In here, X : = 2?
No, just somewhere else. Just so the X evaluates.
I see.
That'll be the first thing, and then you'll probably see like X 2 2 2 2 2 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. I just
right, or yeah.
What happens then?
Right. Yeah. So here, do the following, Stephen. Wrap the EchoEvaluation in an inactive.
This EchoEvaluation.
Yep.
Inactive.
And then activate it at the very end.
Okay, this is more like it.
Right, because it's hold, so it's right.
This
it's
is what I was
wrapping
saying before, that you would see the internal ones.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what this is doing, more or less. Okay, so you're seeing the internal ones, and they are returning. Then you're seeing a final lowest X, and then the returns start coming in. This is absolutely unreadable, as it is right now.
Why? I mean, was this based on the family of echo function in general utilities? Because they had the echo hold that is using arrows to match input and output.
But I think that echo, though, I think that one doesn't print the in until it's finished, though, until it's finished evaluating, if that makes sense.
Yes.
This is okay. This is the reason why. Okay, I see.
I mean, that format is arguably, the nicest format.
Yeah, but you can't do it until you know the result. Unless we could. I mean, is it possible? Does that have a long kind of brackety thing coming down here? Can I run it?
Yeah, I can paste you the code if you want.
Yeah, can you?
Is gonna be.
I'm also wondering if one could do something crazy, like replace the cell, right? Initially print the input, and then replace that cell with the bracket structure once it's done.
Yeah, I understand. I think that is, as you say, crazy. What the heck does this mean?
You have the internal one first, one goes to 1, and then the external one.
But what's this?
Box represent another echo hold?
Yeah, but in the openable thing you will have in general you always have because the arguments evaluate before the head. I mean, sorry, before the expression. So that echo hold evaluates to 1, so you see the 1, but you see where it was coming from.
So if you call, echo hold of some complicated thing, will it have drop downs going all the way down?
It could very well be.
What are you suggesting, Christopher?
Just say echo hold of 1 + 2 + 3. Or sorry, that's a bad example. Try you would even. Actually, I don't think that example will work either. Just try you could even try just 1 + 2 × 3 to the 4. Okay. Right. And if you go in that drop down, will it just keep going?
No.
Okay.
Because it needed other echo holds. This is the only echo hold that it's doing. By the way, I mean, this should be in the function repository, whatever this thing is, although it's kind of obscure.
I think it is.
Okay.
But most of general utilities, at least, is in the function repository. I don't know about this one.
And
Somebody-
I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but the 2 times 3D, the fact that it doesn't go lower than that may very well have to do with, internal evaluation of times, right? That it's not necessarily, making an extra call to the evaluator, so the top level code doesn't see it. But
right. Comment from Ethan on our live stream. He wants a way to reroute echoes to a log file, or generally disable them from displaying in the session. A not completely unreasonable ask.
We have quiet echo now.
Have the function quiet echo. But what about the idea of sending it to a log file?
Yes, that's a good idea.
So how would we do that? Would that be an option to quiet echo?
No.
I was saying that quiet echo can avoid them printing.
Yeah, that would be very confusing. I mean, if we really want to add the ability to do things globally, right, then all these echo functions would need to take options that default to some dollar variable that the user could set. So instead of, automatic or dollar or,
Look, here's the point. I think the objective is you've got an echo. It's just going to generate just gobs of stuff, right? You would like to be able to route that to an external file. I agree that will be useful. The problem is that echo right now is tied to, where things are coming from for the echo, because they're in the notebook. If it's in an external file, you don't have that information. It's just like, it sent all that stuff out. It's a question is, do you want to avoid? Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I wonder if,
what's the equivalent for print?
There isn't. We have that. Look, in version 1, we have this idea of channels.
You can change the values of $output, but I don't think you can set print.
You can set it to a stream, right? And then that prints to a stream, to a file.
I have no idea what that thing looks like anymore. Yeah, there it is. So I mean, that is the thing. I mean, we could imagine a $echo.
We have a $echo.
What is it?
It's the thing. Well, it's documented, right? It's the thing that echoes all your inputs to
a file.
To a file.
Right. So there's a subterranean world that is a third of a century old that, is reminiscent of Unix, redirection type stuff that allows you to specify for your output. I mean, I have no idea in a notebook. This was set up long before, notebooks were the only common interface.
I think we also have a $urgent. So I wonder if.
Yeah, we do.
So I wonder if maybe echo could be made to respect $urgent, and if it's not output stream.
Not a silly idea. Yeah, I mean, because that was done. That's Stdera basically. That will be mapped in a terminal interface to Stdera, which is not, by the way, the stupidest thing. We should check that echo maps itself to Stdera on a terminal interface. Do you agree that it should?
Unclear if it should be standard error or standard out. No, I think standard out is probably.
But if it's standard out, you can't distinguish where it's going. Whereas if it's standard error, you could have a 2 greater than some file and so on.
But if it's going to Stdera, then if you are using that inside of a script and you're calling it via run process or whatever, your diagnostic stuff may cause you to error out in some way.
I mean, I think even more generally, if echo is at some level an updated version of print, and you're calling print to produce the output for your command line utility, Right? Like if you're calling,
Yeah,
I think that echo is not that distinguishable from print. That echo should print a standard error and print should print a standard out.
I agree.
Right. So fair enough. Okay. I think it's a separate question how you send things to log files. We have not. Log files are an issue for. I mean, we do have mechanisms for logging for some of the things which happen in the cloud and you know, asynchronous tasks and things like that. Let's separately put a thing on the agenda to discuss logging and echo and other places that need logging. Go ahead.
I was going to say that the $urgent also in a terminal is mapped to stat out and not stat error. So
well, that probably got done to fix a bug, you know, in 1989 or something. Who knows?
Right. So I mean, we could have echo printed $urgent, and then if you want that to be different from stat out,
let's put that in our discussion about logging. I don't know. Let's not derail for that right now. It's a reasonable idea. Okay, Devin, do you have it?
Yes. Yeah, I took note of it.
Okay, let's come back to our original problem here, which is how to deal with the you know, this problem here, right? Okay, this is a mess, and how should we do it? So one possibility would be, you know, we could increase the number of Guillemots. Is that crazy? You know, the depth nested echoes are not exactly your commonest thing. Could we simulate increasing the number of Guillemots? Is that easy to code?
No.
Okay.
And they'd push out to the left. Is
it possible to push them out to the left?
Well, no, what I mean is that if you had, say, 2 of them, the second one would be to the left of the first.
No, what this would look like is shorter Guillemot, longer.
Right. That's what I meant. That they would grow out to the left. They're not going to push things in. Like,
well, they might not have any choice. They might not have a choice but to indent, and it might not necessarily be bad for them to indent. I wouldn't be horrified by them indenting. Now, do we actually know the echo depth? Does something know the echo depth?
Not currently, but it could be added.
Okay.
And I think more guillemets is better than indentation because, let's say these are printed in very different parts of the notebook. Be easier to compare them. See, this is the one with 3 and this is the other one with 3 guillemets.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean if there were interspersed outputs here that weren't anything to do with the echo?
Yeah.
All right, now what would happen if there's a label as well as the, so this would be, I mean, it's also not terrific the way this looks. Input, output. I have a feeling that we should change the color slightly. Is there an obvious way to change the color and not have it be stupid? In, out, you know.
I mean, you could mirror input and output and have bold and not bold.
It's interesting. Is that easy to simulate? Could Billy?
I mean, you could probably select the label and do Command B on it. That was a very subtle change.
Well, I don't think it's that subtle. I think it's I mean,
you notice that the arrows on the left are also pointing in different directions.
I do see that. Yeah, that was sort of the point. I mean, but I find that visually it's not very compelling visually.
No, I think you want a color change or something. Orange and gray or
we could try gray for the input, orange for the output.
Is that something that would possibly specified by the user using like color data or?
You could probably do that, but that's pretty overkilly. I mean, I think that what we need is the default. Could you, Billy, could you try and mock this and just, put that in
well, I don't know. Does somebody know if the colors live in a style somewhere?
These are the echo before and echo after cell styles. but I don't know anything about style sheets.
Okay.
So if you edit if you edit that notebook style sheet under format.
This is the most ugly thing in the world. We have got, I hope this is modernizing for 12.2 at least visually. Okay, what's the style name again? What was the style name again?
It's echo before. And there's also echo after.
Okay, but so you're saying echo before.
No, just go to format and change it to like a red font.
Well, I'm going to change it to gray.
Okay.
Text color, gray. And why didn't it change?
Is that actually a character and not a bitmap or some text resource?
It changed on the cell, not the label. Looks like.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know how to do it. Somebody should figure it out. Look, it changed. Yeah, it changed that cell. That was the echo before. That wasn't the dingbat. That was the thing itself. By the way.
Well, no. The dingbat was also there, but I'm saying the dingbat is probably not text.
Yeah, I understand. But by the way, changing that to gray input isn't terrible.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That doesn't seem bad at all. Somebody's suggesting put the arrows on the right for input and on the left for output. That will not work. The input could be arbitrarily long. You'll never see the arrow. I think that putting that graying that down and putting this and correspondingly graying that Guillaume is going to work. And I think trying deeper, larger numbers of Guillaumes, even if they push things to the right, is the correct thing for nested ones. I think that's what we should try. Okay. With respect to this different in-out labels, I mean, I don't know. If we use this, clearly we're burning the possibility of having a label which is a rule like that.
Right. We were suggesting rules because they naturally represent which one is first.
Indeed.
Because a pair would be confusing.
No, I agree. Now, what's this? In function, out function.
So that's a function that can be applied before.
And do we have that right now in EchoEvaluation?
Yes, but only for the input. You see the hold in the example above?
Yes.
And
well, I think
has
that
an out function.
Sorry, and the echo itself has an out function.
Yes.
Okay. Well, fine. These look okay to me. Oh, the old grey dog was saying to the right or left of the label. Yeah, the problem is that we don't always have labels. This is the case where there isn't a label. But you're suggesting if there is a label, the question is, do we put... No, I don't think it's going to work. We tried that before. Yeah. Ali is complaining that orange doesn't look good on the white background. I think it looks pretty good, but I don't know what this does on a dark mode notebook. That's a different question. All right, I think we're done with the EchoEvaluation discussion. Can we continue, please? On I know this is a very
sorry,
a can of worms.
It's a longer discussion. Yeah, certainly. We need to review the documentation, so perhaps we can leave it for the next time.
Okay, but just to give some sense of what this is.
Yes, so these we are adding new calendars, and in the process we are also adding parameters to the calendars. So we are following the model of GeoProjections, which are string, comma rules with parameter values.
I see. And how funky do these get?
We have like 30 of more calendars already, and parameters we
have like I mean, are we doing the history stuff? Are we doing the regnal calendars of ancient civilizations and things, or not?
Not regnals yet, but we have some ancient Babylonian and Sumerian, Samaritan calendars, things like that. Some modern calendars are still used by people. And, some proposed calendars, like calendars which are very regular. All months have 28 days, and they all start on Mondays, things like that.
Huh.
So.
Okay.
It's a funny variety.
Is that really is that the right character set for Coptic calendar? It seems surprising that it's in Roman calendar. I mean, it's in standard Latin character set, but I don't know.
Yeah, we tend to transliterate most of them, so we have the same thing with the Islamic calendar and Hebrew calendar. Is we're by default using transliterated, but potentially
is that what
there's a
people
style
normally
change. It depends. Both are used frequently for a lot of the calendars. But yeah, it's something we need to investigate a little bit in terms of extensions to the typesetting.
Yeah, we probably should have both options for the month name. And maybe does somebody here know, for example, for the Hebrew calendar?
It's quite common in US calendars to transliterate. Well, actually to have both the transliterated name and the Hebrew name and the name in the Hebrew alphabet.
But you would see it with the Hebrew name somewhere. It wouldn't be only
somewhere on the page, right? They're not next to each other. In fact, they typically be on opposite sides of the page, since Hebrew is a right to left language.
Oh gosh, yes. Right. It's a question from Bob here. Can you scan Egyptian hieroglyphs and translate into English? Can we now that we can do beyond plain zero Unicode, I think we can get Egyptian hieroglyphs, can't we? But I don't think
the OCR.
The OCR does not exist. It has not been trained, right? Has it been
neither
trained?
Is the translation. No one has machine translation for like Egyptian or Babylonian or any of this stuff. Akkadian.
Is there a corpus big enough to make it? I wonder. I don't know.
Yeah,
there was an attempt, but it was not very well developed.
What, people aren't Google searching in hieroglyphics all the time so that they can just machine learn it? That's a shame.
I thought there was a stone for that.
and Apple is apparently including it in the next version of their operating system, right? So
yeah, right. By the way, what is happening to the beyond plain zero Unicode in the prototype build and so on? Does anybody know?
What do you mean in the prototype build?
I mean in the notebook system here.
Right. The question is, how's the front end handling it?
Yeah.
And I don't think anything is changing a great deal right now about that. I mean, and that's maybe a code point we just don't have.
Yeah, right. I understand. Can somebody make sure that it is on Sushma's list of projects, the extended Unicode? I don't remember seeing it there.
Yeah, I can check.
Okay. So even though I'd be kind of interested to hear about the calendar stuff, we should probably move that. We should table it for a different day in some calendar system. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the. I think, Devin, you sent the LCC calendar. That means, LCC agenda. That may mean different people are needed for here. So anybody who thinks that they're not needed for this segment can depart. Okay, this is the can of worms. This is a huge can of worms. This is the value queue discussion. So.
Okay, so I'm not sure how big of a can of worms it is, but yes, you can open the ref page in the prototype build, and there are some relevant futurized examples.
So I'd like to know from Christopher, what is the confirm thing that is related to whether something evaluated? What is that called?
Well, right now it doesn't exist because we sort of determined that its behavior was going to be too bizarre. But I mean, it would be called. I think we talked about confirm evaluates and things like this, but we didn't have a proper name.
I thought it was confirm evaluation, but maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah, we talked about several. Yeah.
But so the question is, okay, just to be clear, what I mean, what is the
right?
Is it
I think just to be clear, I think value queue is serving a somewhat different purpose. But
okay, but let's be clear what the confirm evaluated or confirm evaluates thing does. Confirm evaluates would check that the thing inside it evaluates in a way where it didn't stay the same as it was before.
Right, and in that sense, it should be precisely equivalent to the trial evaluation method that's documented in the table there.
Okay. Well,
so is that using same queue, or is it somehow more sophisticated?
Ian should confirm, but I think it's using same queue.
That's correct.
Now the only thing is, though, is we also mentioned this when we were talking about it, and I mean, look, I agree. I think the confirm thing is a bit different, because one of the things we thought was that maybe confirm should actually just do the more basic thing of checking if the head changes, because that actually has the advantage that, like, if I say x plus 2 and it turns into 2 plus x, it won't get triggered as, hey, this evaluated, right? Which you probably don't want to evaluate, or you don't want to count. So I don't know, there's complication for the confirm case that I think is different for the value queue case.
Well, why is value queue? I mean, I don't understand. Value queue, one question is, for value queue, is did it go through user-defined down values? That's a slippery slope, because there's plenty of system-defined stuff that is using the exact same path as user-defined.
What do you mean by that? I mean, when
right,
do you
and yes.
What were you saying?
I'm not sure.
No, I was just asking. When do you care about it using only user-defined down values?
Well, I'm saying that I'm not sure I do. I may be the wrong distinction. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
But the goal for confirm evaluates is this, that one of the things that goes wrong in people's computations is that something they thought would evaluate to 7.2 or something just doesn't evaluate. Now, your argument is what they should do in that case is to say, what is it? Confirm match? Is that what?
Well, the nice one would be confirm by and then number queue or something, right? So I mean, this is the. I think that the fundamental point is not even that case. It's not even the case that I expect a number out. It's just that, there are several different failure modes for different sorts of functions, and and you kind of want to be able to recognize each one of them. And one of those failure modes is it returns unevaluated. Although, as we discussed at length before, there are also lots of times when things return unevaluated, even when they haven't failed. So it can be many different things, but right.
Right. And the alternative that I have been proposing for a while, which has been more or less shot down, is the messages off by default for particular functions. Right. I mean, that would be an alternative approach. Right?
Although I bet that there are performance reasons why you don't really want to do that, if nothing else.
Anybody got a comment on that? Because, an off by default message would just be basically this function recording the fact that it did nothing useful. Anybody want to comment on that? Itai?
I mean, but the thing is that some of the time when functions return unevaluated, they do this sort of very intentionally, where usually, the developers put a little wrapper around some internal function so that it can return unevaluated, right? And in those cases, it would, you can imagine doing that. But sometimes it also just returns unevaluated because of, pattern matching and stuff like that. In which case, it's kind of like, where is the message? I mean, like technically,
right, for a user-defined function, it's not clear. Okay, so let's go back to value queue then. So what is the issue here? So the issue is that the proposal is to put alternate methods in here. Is that right?
Yeah,
What
one
is
of my pet peeves is value queue of pos of 5. It takes 5 seconds to let you know that, yes, it has a value.
How could it do anything different?
Well, if it looks and sees that there are down values for pause
Yep.
and stuff like that, it might be able to. Right, so trial evaluation would wait, but presumably symbol definitions present or something like that would not wait. Is that right?
Exactly, and this is using symbol definitions.
Okay, but if I say pause of foo.
Right, it's only at the top level.
But what did pause of foo
No,
do?
it's through the whole expression. If there's any symbol in the expression that has down values or up values.
Okay, so I'm very confused by this. Why did I not see a message in value queue pause of foo?
Because it didn't run it.
Right.
What did it do?
It just checked every symbol and checked to see if it had the appropriate, to see if it had definitions, and if any of the symbols have definitions.
Had down value definitions.
Any definitions.
But foo doesn't have any
Own
definitions.
value.
Unless it does.
Yeah, but the point.
Right. So one of the problems with value queue, just the idea of even having a value queue, is that it has to solve the halting problem, right?
Yes.
And so instead there are various heuristics, and the current heuristic is, does it have own values? And if not, let's just evaluate it to see if it evaluated. And the current proposal is, hey, can we be cleverer about this so that we don't actually have to evaluate the thing to find out if it would evaluate? Because if the user wanted to wait for it to evaluate to find out if it evaluates, why didn't they just evaluate it instead of calling a function and then when it gets true, go, oh, I'll evaluate it now, and it takes twice as long.
How much code might be broken by making such a change? Could code be broken by making that change?
If people relied on value queue of an expression.
What do you mean? I mean, of course they have value queue of an expression.
Well,
I mean, sorry, what would you? I didn't understand that. What is it in the? Okay,
oh, sorry, I was muted. I've been talking all this time and I've been muted, which is why you were ignoring me.
See, the problem is, Itai, that you're too used to being ignored.
Steve. Yes.
Go on.
Well, it started at a very young age. Blame my parents. That's what the youngest child feels like. Anyway,
I think we
right.
asked your opinion about something much earlier than this. What was the which you probably were also responding about? Well, okay, no matter, but keep going on this.
Okay, right. So let me maybe preface this a little bit, but that I think there are probably two cases we should consider, and I think there are also sort of two cases in practice. One is value queue of a symbol, and one and the other is value queue of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So value queue of a symbol, the way it currently works is it looks at its own values and tries to guess whether that own value would apply, and but it might leak, as I've sort of shown in that case. And what happens if the own values aren't readable because it's read protected and locked? And the other method is sort of, and then it just sort of randomly guesses like true
read
or false.
protected and locked. It still knows, doesn't it, that it has own values? Is that a true statement?
Sure, but own values of blah. So the legacy method, what's currently implemented in master, which is still more or less available as the legacy method, is it reads the own values and tries to substitute them in and sees if into hold of the expression, and then sees if that changed. and which of course can leak depending on how complicated the down value is.
That sounds completely crazy. Why? Okay, hold on. For own values of x, value q of x, you see if x has an own value. The only case which I can see being bad is x : equals 7 / semi blah blah blah, where the thing doesn't fire, right?
Yep.
And that's exactly what it needs to check. Yeah.
Right, because as the legacy behavior is, does it evaluate non-trivially? So, right. And now I think this case is typically people really care, well, has a value, is there an own value or isn't there? And that's certainly something we know, whether or not we can read the own values of the expression. And so now then there's the sort of more general case where you might want to know if this is a safe expression, quote unquote. And right now the way that works is, well, it just evaluates it and sees if it changed, and that doesn't really tell you whether or not it's safe because by then it's already fired. So that's what symbol definitions present does. It goes and looks through everything and says, oh, does this have up values, down values, own values, or sub values?
Okay.
Does not look at numeric values or format values. That's maybe something we could discuss if we need a method for those.
Are they present, but it does not say whether the conditions are such that they will actually fire, right?
Correct.
Okay. Trial evaluation does what it does. Own values present. I mean, these seem like sensible, well-defined possibilities.
Right. And then the one question is sort of what should be the default. So so I think what we have implemented right now is basically symbol definitions present is the default.
Is that what you had implemented for 30 years or not?
No. What we've had what we've had implemented for 30 years is basically trial evaluation with a little bit of cleverness for symbols.
Ugh. So it had side effects.
Correct.
That's horrific. Okay.
Right. And so the one case that should value q of sign give true or false, right? So if we think that should give true, then we should just use symbol definitions present everywhere. If we think that should give false, then we should probably use own values present for.
By the way, symbol definitions present. I mean, we could detect that case of whether. No, we couldn't detect that case. If you say nest of sign or whatever, you absolutely can't detect the case of whether. Well, the nest would have. In other words, if there is no possibility of getting from the symbol to have the symbol in a down value position, then even if the symbol, you get what I'm saying? If it doesn't have down values and it can't get into even if it has down values, if it can't get into a down value position, it's not going to evaluate.
That's true. But
by the way, I mean, this documentation should be changed to make it clear that this is an insane function.
Okay.
I'm thinking some sort of new banner at the top that like
insane function. It's like your what was the function from? Oh dear, I'm going senile. What was your earlier language?
SMP.
SMP. Yes. So what was it?
Rex.
Random.
Confusing.
Rex.
You're thinking of a confusing function.
Oh yes, the confusing function.
What? I don't know what there was one with the chameleonic symbols and things. They were.
No, there was a function called confusing, or that introduced random numbers or something like that to make things unique.
Oh yes.
And the documentation was, this is a confusing function.
Great.
Right. So basically, right. So I mean, in the case of list sign comma cosine, okay, we couldn't, we'll give true, which I think is perfectly okay, because I'm not sure how hard.
I'm sorry. True for what?
For value q of that.
Why?
because there are symbols present which have definitions.
We can detect that case. Come on, we can detect whether it's in a down value position.
But we're not only looking at down values, right?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, listen. Why don't we do this? Why don't you put in what you think it should be, and somebody needs to look at the test suite and see whether anything is affected by it.
Okay.
Okay. Let's try that.
All right. But I do want you know, a quick opinion. The value queue of sign case, right? Do we if we just do value queue of a symbol, do we only want to look at own values, or do we want to look at all
I think
of
we
them?
should just look at own values. I think that will have been a common case in the code for years, and I think it's useful.
Right.
And the heuristic then for automatic will be if the argument is just a symbol, use symbol definitions present. If the argument is not just a symbol, use well, what are we proposing? Use trial evaluation in that case, or what?
Well, I think the
it
question
would be
is
own values present for the symbol, but then symbol definitions present for any other expression.
Right? Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think
say that again. I'm sorry, say that again.
So for a symbol, you would use own values present.
Fair enough.
But for anything else, you would use symbol definitions
All right,
present.
check that with a relative to the test suite.
Okay.
What happens? Okay. All right, let's move on. We've got several more things to cover here, some of which are quite big. Okay, WL is a documented export format.
Right. So, you know, there's this, so what page, there's this export form thing that was sort of invented without any consultation from the import export team. And it invented this thing called WL, which I guess is another name for package. And that's used in some places, all cloud related as far as I know, and as far as Ricardo's email also says. And so I guess the question is, do we want to have a format called WL?
I think we should. There are .wl files, so why not?
Well, we've been calling that package for 20 years.
I know we didn't have the .wl extension. I don't
Yeah,
see why we should.
but when we had the .m extension, right, it was the same thing. Right?
I know. I know, but I think that at this point, look, we've got .wl. I think we should have .wl, as equivalent to package.
Okay, Sean.
But it should link in the documentation. I think this is what is confusing for people, because you don't see this format.
Yes, why not? Why not? Just say
and
WL.
And it should go somewhere. That's
right.
So you're saying it should, right, and so whenever we see WL as a format, it should be linked to package.
Well, it says it's .wl there.
Right, right, and if you search for WL, it should come up because I made
right. But what happens? Okay, so the issue is whether we should make the default page, the canonical page here, be a WL page as opposed to a package page, and I would argue that at this point we should. And by the way, these examples should absolutely not have .m in them anymore. Why don't we modernize this page, call it WL, make something which has this package page can either just go to the WL page, or we could have, I don't know exactly how we document that. Go ahead.
John, do you want to speak up?
We could mark this obsolete. We just started marking formats obsolete.
Fine. I think that will be fine, and just call it WL going forward. And for goodness sake, update the documentation here.
Okay.
Right, but you're not going to make package stop working.
No.
Of course not.
Oh. Okay.
Should we keep the double file in the layout? Otherwise, those examples will.
Yes, keep them in the layout.
Yeah. Okay.
For the time being. All right.
Steven, one thing we could do also for. I think there are already functions at the Wolfram repository that are doing something like this, but I think the indentation option here, we should have a way to, basically do a dump of an association with list inside and make it look human readable. So that it's probably indented.
Well, that
are
relates to the things we were just looking at yesterday with code assistance and this airiness parameter for code formatting. So in other words, having some way of hooking into the code formatter does sound sensible here. Right? That's what you're basically saying, is you're determining how the
yes.
how the
I mean,
WL code
sometimes
is
I'm also encountering a lot of code and expression inside our source code that, and you want to reformat it quickly.
I know, but that's a different thing. We just talked about that yesterday. We have a really nice scheme for doing that, hopefully with command keys and things that gives you reformatting, right? But that's a different thing, which you're making.
And what I'm saying is that maybe inside export,
I think you're right. Yes, I agree with you. A programmatic way to do that. So that's a connection that needs to be made with Brenton and the code assistance team to make sure that export, it's a very good idea, actually, to make sure that export can accept those airiness or indentation options. So I guess that's another thing for Devon to go chase.
Yep.
Okay. It's a very good idea. And I think Brenton basically has the wherewithal to do that, and I just will need to decide on some option names or whatever, or element names or whatever it is. Makes sense? I mean, we might have an element name here for WL and export that is something like, I don't know what it would be, WL and then, I don't know, maximum airiness, but that isn't the right term, but something which does what you say and breaks an association onto as many lines as possible in effect.
Right.
Okay.
I'm doing it all
I mean,
the time.
there
I have
are
some code that is from Daniel and.
Okay, guys, we've got this. Okay, Ricardo needs to talk to Brenton and try and make sure that Ricardo likes the
It's okay. I don't need to like it. It's.
No, but I think you should look at it.
But yes, I can take a look at it.
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this. Yes.
Ask one thing, because there's a similar issue that I just thought of actually with Cloud CDF. That's also accepted as an export form, but it's not a proper format.
It's a Cloud CDF.
Yeah.
Is that even a thing anymore?
Well, we don't really need it. At some point, we thought it would be a good idea, but I think with CDF sort of not really being a thing anymore, and it's all just notebooks, I think we could just move to NB.
Maybe we just dedocument it.
I think we should. Because I think the concept was that it was something that had embedded pieces that were in one form, but had a container in a different form, and I think we're just not going in that direction.
Yeah.
That reminds me, when you do an export of a notebook, or you do an no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Okay, how do you do the following? I want to export a notebook inside your embedder, Jan. Does that even make any sense? In other words, I want to export something which I would be putting on an HTML page that is a notebook with I don't think it makes sense, right? That would be an embed code, not an export. Correct?
I'm not totally sure, but I guess so, yeah.
Well, let's talk that through, because I mean, the fact is what we want to be able to do is I've got this notebook. I want to get it so that I can put it on a web page. Okay? But what's going to happen is the notebook is going to be saved in the cloud, and then some embedding code has to be provided that will be the actual HTML to put on the page that references the cloud URL of the notebook.
Exactly. Yeah. As far as the object is concerned, it's just a notebook.
Right. But that's what Cloud CDF had in mind, was that construction. See what I'm saying?
Maybe.
I think that was what I had in mind, at least when I was originally suggesting it. Was something where it arrives on a web page, but it is referencing a CDF. See what I'm saying? It's a piece of HTML that brings you a CDF. Okay, so the export form is a little confusing there, because it is really an embed code that is doing two things. It is posting something in the cloud and then providing the wrapper code.
Yeah. If you want wrapper code to embed it somewhere else, then embed code is the answer. It's not a separate format.
I understand, but the point I'm making is it would have been a format were it not for the fact that it essentially has to have a side effect of posting the core content to the cloud. Right? If you could have an inline notebook in a web page, then it would be a meaningful format. See what I'm saying?
Right. But isn't that just the HTML export then?
No, because well, it depends. Depends what the inline content is. Yes, it basically is for the time being, until we have some WebAssembly mechanism for rendering notebooks on the fly and so on. Right? If it has to go to a server, look, I think this is not a thing. I don't. Let's not address this right here. Probably Cloud CDF can be obsoleted, but I don't know for sure. If you could try and think through these points that I've been making about how do you export a notebook so that it is showing up as an embedded thing, and so you can plop something into a web page that represents the embedded thing.
Yep, fine.
Okay, can we move on to progress indicator? And Jan, you should stick around for this because this relates to the cloud as well.
Sure. Yep.
And Billy, is Billy here? We'll need him for sure. Somebody get him, please.
He is. He's here.
Okay.
He's here. He's just quiet, apparently.
Okay. So explain. Do we have examples here?
Yes. Design has a bunch of examples. You've seen most of them. It's just a refresh to basically it has been implemented, what we discussed last time.
Okay.
And then the application example has, I think, the more complicated one that you're.
Can I run this?
In a prototype build, yes.
Maybe I'm already in a prototype build here. Okay, let's see this go. Well, it's all actually running. It's frozen here. Should it be frozen?
Nope.
There might be some messages in the message box. But by the way, though, I mean, I assume that this is, I guess, in theory, you can run this without all of these other arguments, right?
You can run it alone, but then it's like monitor. If you don't put a variable, what are you monitoring?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I don't have much context for this project. I've just heard of it in passing, but like my understanding was that it was sort of that a bunch of functions like map and so on. There's sort of obvious progress indicators that you can have, and so you can the idea is that you would sort of be able to turn them on in some way.
But then we need this is basically before that. This is the infrastructure.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Then we can decide what to do. That we can build stuff using this. But the point is, there was a lot of work to be done to hook it up to the terminal to be sure that the whole dynamic thing was properly done, and now it's mostly done.
Sure, okay. So then this is. So this function here, is this intended to be a user level function or not?
No,
not
this is
yet.
where we put the stuff that we need.
Okay.
Then we can decide how to package it.
Okay, fine. Okay, design-wise, I'm not that excited about having this be so loud, this header.
Yeah, I don't think there was originally a background color that dark.
Yeah, probably. I think I copied from what it was before in some general utilities, the amount of darkness. But as I put in one of the points above, Billy, I mean, now that everything is in place and implemented, we should probably meet and go through these little details.
Okay.
Okay, so the stop button is that all of these things provide a stop service, so to speak.
Not all of them, no.
Okay.
You notice the buttons goes to stop in the middle of the code.
Yep.
That is what provides, and the user needs to the user, i.e. the developer, needs to provide an infrastructure, because this is this for that.
What does this do? This closes it up to something which looks more like.
Yeah, for example, in this case, I mean, this is all temporary, but right now, okay, if you scroll down, yeah, okay, you can see you can mark some element as optional.
Why am I getting this?
I don't know.
No, that could just be prototype build stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prototype build has many more assertions on by default than the normal build. So.
So by the way, for the stop buttons, is the idea that it will return partial results, or that it's basically aborting?
No. It will return partial results.
Okay, so I guess for some functions, right? You sort of have to be careful that there aren't performance reasons not to do that, right? So like I remember
it's opt-in, it's not opt-out. You have to say.
Right, I understand. So. No, right. I'm just saying, right? Like, for example, in the function repository, there's a function I use sometimes called dynamic map, which is kind of like the general utilities. What is it? Monitored map. But the dynamic map has a stop button that gives you partial results. But I think it sort of had some measurable weird behavior / slowness associated with it, because it's basically re-implementing map at the top level with bags and so on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean that's going to be it. But even if you, Stephen, if you uniconize the example with ndsolve, for example, like if you just want the progress, like you have this ndsolve value, yeah. If you have an iconize inside the code part, yeah. So if you uniconize that, then you see that there is a step monitor, which is evaluating something. It's not too expensive. I mean, the append to is done every so often. But then if you want to stop, for example, you need the when event, and when event is also very expensive to add to the ndsolve loop. So yeah, these things, they have a price. I guess that the reasoning here is if you want to enable them is probably because you have a computation that is very long.
Okay, so wait. So for ndsolve, is it going to have this by default or not?
That we have to decide with Oliver, I guess. I mean, some stuff is less expensive, like just progress monitoring is less expensive. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I think that a more precise answer to that question is that we have been in communication with Oliver, and Oliver is experimenting with what we can turn on by default without.
Okay, fine. I think stopping an ndsolve is a luxury item. And I would be perfectly happy to have some option to ndsolve have to be used to get something which is stoppable.
Right. And then I think we talked about this. I don't know that we ever wrote it up, right? But we talked about I think a progress monitoring, or maybe that's a symbol that exists already.
No, doesn't. Yeah. Progress monitoring. Oh, option for ndsolve.
Yep. Exactly. Well, for any function.
Yeah, right.
So you can turn, if you can turn these off if you don't want them, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. Well, you can turn it to automatic or all and things like that for different levels of progress monitoring.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So in this review, okay.
Well, so we didn't have specific questions. You said you wanted an update, so
I do want an update. Yeah, and I don't like this. I think this is not really quite right. This header here. I think,
Billy, can you provide us with your mock-up, with the link to the mock-up in chat or something, so we can compare?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I haven't noticed that. I think the mock-up has the same color as the main grid. It doesn't change color for the title. I think I got distracted by the information box.
Okay.
I see.
Let's see that. If Billy can paste that in the chat, that'll be good. Bob on our live stream is asking about a pause button. The stop button means stop and return. a pause button, of which we have in things like audio capture, works differently, right?
Right.
And I don't know what a pause button would exactly do, other than your computer is frozen in a modal state.
I had a prototype with that I showed you once that was using a pause to entering a sub-session. You didn't particularly like it.
No, it was horrifying. Look, the pause, if one needs that, it's because the operating system is, one shouldn't need a pause. Unless the operating system is causing one's machine to be eaten alive, one should be, I mean, arguably, okay, we could have an overall pause. I don't know how this would work software engineering wise. We could have an overall pause under the evaluation menu. Is that completely crazy?
Well, it would have to. Well, that's really a question for John and Tom, because it would have to send a signal to the kernel to somehow do something.
Sounds like a thing that should be the responsibility of the operating system. What's that?
I thought we used to essentially have that under evaluate, where you'd basically
we had
to interrupt, and then if you just didn't do anything, it was effectively.
Okay, well, the fact that I didn't pay attention to that in so many decades.
Well, you in fact ordered the removal of this button, apparently. And there are people who are unhappy about this, but there was an interrupt entry there, and it's still available, I believe, as Command Option period on Mac.
Yeah, I think nobody knew what it was.
Oh. Well, Todd did. Right. And it's not I think with a little bit of cleanup, it might be a useful thing, but it's not exactly the most important item.
The only reason I can think of using it is, you're on a laptop in your office and, you're going home for the night or something, and it relies on being behind your firewall or something.
Ornate. That's an ornate case.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. We're looking at this. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Looks better.
I clean it up. It's not an issue.
Okay, no problem.
A lot of blue.
It is a lot of blue, but I think it looks pretty good. And
mainly just the middle column cases.
This case here?
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think it looks pretty decent.
Okay.
Also, we have the message here that certain functions like nettrain or classify will switch from we have the heavy information version of this, which is gray. And the training version of this being blue gives, it's more clear what's going on actually. That what one is in progress.
The output, yeah, right. That this is an intermediate stage, and then the output is an information blob that is gray.
Yeah.
Okay. Reasonable enough.
By the way, the animation there, given that you asked for it, is the prototype for dynamic image. Oh, sorry, animated image. So you can hover and pose and stuff.
Oh, that's
I was gonna ask. I was like, is this some crazy dynamic thing or something? But no. Okay.
That's very nice. How does it work?
Right now, it's just basically built on top of the same. Similar to List Animate, without controls and like.
Is it efficient?
As far as dynamic is efficient. So it's one of those things we probably want to re-implement. The point is that if you have data in memory, this is all front end. This is purely this was copy pasted. You don't even have this implemented. It's just boxes. So this was copy pasted from the branch that had it. The thing I'm interested in is to be able to do that on GIFs on the file. I guess John promised us library link support for sending image data directly to the front end, and we want to use it extensively for out of core images, video. So that will be propagated here nicely as well.
It's being worked on. I mean, with the whole ARM Mac porting effort, given that Chris is, pretty important for both of these projects, that it may not happen for 12.2, but it's being worked on.
No, yeah. I mean, the benefits will not be in 12.2. John said that it will probably be at the end of a release. So we want this will. I mean, the other functionality will be in 12.3 or whatever we have. So,
okay.
but I mean, this is the plan forward for this stuff.
Right, and if you scroll up a bit, I just don't want the progress since last time. Since we're talking about
missing bits. What is this?
Right.
Oh.
So right. On Windows, we had like, I guess there are 5 terminals listed there, which I think exhibited at least 3 distinct behaviors, if not more.
Okay.
But we got them all to work. So, since I didn't want to be ignored, I wanted credit for that.
That's very good. Okay. A couple of comments on our live stream. Add an option that will try to save intermediate results on aborts. You mean try to
where
dump
would they go though? I mean, I understand why it's something that you'd want, but I mean, you don't even know necessarily. No, right. But I guess it might be nice to have something where it's like on abort, you dump everything that I mean, the problem is that there might be things that are in the process of being modified.
Right. I mean, if we returned an enul to top level, our users would be very, very, very unhappy with the result. So, I mean, right, once an abort is right, we start unwinding the stack, and we don't know what state things are in. So there's nothing we can safely return to top level. Right, these stop buttons, right?
They're much more
person
controlled.
Who created the progress monitor says run this function to interrupt, and then it takes care of all the cleanup.
Right, so look, the status of this is all internal. It is going into particular functions that are known to be long time functions, and it will come up when. Go ahead.
And in particular, where we things which already have sort of ad hoc, we are on the lookout for those to convert them to this now standardized interface.
Fine. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is providing a user level version of this interface. And step also 2 probably is installing it in some functions like map.
Right.
Which will be super nice. And import is another big one.
Yeah, import of video already uses this. Export of video.
Yeah, but there's many imports, like import of, I mean, like one that has a slightly tricky UX is the drag an Excel file or something into a notebook. That can take a while, or drag a big image. Those should have some kind of progress indicator.
I don't think that's this progress indicator, though.
No, I agree. I agree. That's an untethered progress indicator. But that's another thing that Devin should be on your list for progress indicators. But things that we're dealing with in this project are tethered in notebook progress indicators.
Well, tethered to computations, not necessarily notebooks, right? Because it also works in a raw kernel.
Yes. Tethered to a computation.
Right. So you have an in while you're staring at the yellow bracket. You have something that's trying to tell you something about what's happening, which is a distinct problem from you did some arbitrary front end interaction and now the front end is being slow. That's sort of a different.
Yeah, it's a different thing. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, a couple of comments from our live stream, and then we really have to wrap up. Bob is talking about having 2 notebooks, and you want to prioritize one calculation over another. That's up to your operating system. That is out of our hands. If you've got 17 cores, which ones get used is really an operating system issue. I see asks, is it possible to use functions that have been compiled with the new compiler? We are working on it. The problem is the new compiler produces incredibly efficient code, but is slow to run the compiler at present. And the main thing that's happening is we're trying to compile the compiler. As soon as that works, it will become possible to do just-in-time compilation of lots of things. And there's a bunch of other interesting stuff afoot with the compiler, which we don't have time to talk about right now. And Bob complains he doesn't like thin progress bars. I think we really went through this. I think these look pretty good. We should. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, some applications have thick progress bars. Some have thin. I don't know what the.
Well, our default progress indicators are thick, and I maybe see a little bit of that because I think that often, like, you know, if you have some window running and it's running some code for a long time, it's nice if you can just look at it. And you have to strain a lot more with the thin ones to see.
Right. I think the issue is that it might be a progress indicator that was really kind of irrelevant. You were concentrating on other things in the notebook. You don't want this giant thing that, you know, you were just typing the next part of your, you know, great novel or whatever in cells below, and there's this giant thing happening above that's like a giant neon sign or something.
Well, but there is a giant thing. There's this giant blue box. It's just a question of whether the indicator in the middle of it
blue box moves up. Yeah, right. It's a question of whether the indicator is
right. Although I will say that we could probably easily double or triple that thickness without, you know, really.
What about these things where there are multiple indicators? That's another issue.
Well, the point is that the actual size, right? The actual size of the indicator itself is the vertical size is so small.
Well,
you made it
relative to anything else that
right. Space is not an issue for this.
Yeah,
right. And I'm a little. I would be a little bit concerned about people with any sort of color impairment. You know, that difference in thickness is really subtle. So if you have color impairment, that may not be a readable.
I assume that was checked somewhere, but I don't know. But all right, listen, the comments from our live stream, also from Lith, pointing out visceral satisfaction of seeing a thick indicator crawling across the screen. Why doesn't Billy just do a couple of experiments with thickening these indicators and see whether we can make something work? I think the reason that I mean, you know, the other issue is one does sometimes have a stack of 5 of these. That was another reason for having them be somewhat thin. It looks pretty weird with a stack of multiple thick indicators, I believe.
Well, we don't have multiple indicators in one box.
Not in one box, but they can stack on top of each other, can't they?
Sure, but again, I'm not sure that, you know, unless all we have is the indicator and nothing else, I'm not sure that they, you know, again, the thickness of the indicator is the controlling thing.
Fair enough. All right, well, let's try thicker ones. I thank you for the suggestion. We're not going to get to this.
Okay, it's not urgent. It's waited a few months already. So.
All right. Okay. All right. Good work, everybody. And thanks to folks on the live stream. And we'll see you another time.